There's a quiet danger unfolding, not with explosions or storms or chaos we can see, but in silence, in our pockets, on our screens, a danger we not only ignore but embrace with comfort. And it's not the phone itself, it's what the phone represents, a portal not to information or connection, but to escape from discomfort, from boredom, from ourselves. We like to believe we're in control, that each scroll, tap and swipe is a choice. But what if it's not? What if, beneath the surface of all this convenience and connection, we're being pulled away from something vital? Our ability to be alone with our own thoughts. Our instinct isn't to face silence, but to drown it. And the device we hold so lovingly, it's the perfect weapon for that. In the year 2021, internal research leaked from a tech giant revealed something grim. They knew. They knew their platform was silently unraveling the emotional health of teenage girls. Yet they carried on. Because the goal wasn't wellness. It was engagement. And pain, oddly enough, drives clicks. But here's the uncomfortable truth. This isn't just manipulation. We're not passive victims. We're willing participants. We're helping carve the pathways in our own minds that make us dependent. One study using brain scans tracked real-time interactions with phones and discovered a striking shift. The more often people use social apps, the less capable their brains became of producing natural motivation chemicals like dopamine. Not hypothetically, biologically. What that means is simple and terrifying. We are slowly trading our own inner engine for artificial reward systems. The chemicals that used to arise from effort, from creativity, from challenge, are now hijacked by loops of instant feedback. We aren't just changing our behavior, we're changing our brains. Nearly a century ago, Aldous Huxley tried to warn us, not with sirens, but with fiction. His world wasn't one of dictatorship and fear. It was a world where comfort became a prison, where people weren't forced into silence. They welcomed it, so long as it came wrapped in pleasure and entertainment. It wasn't soldiers breaking down doors. It was citizens giving up their essence willingly, for comfort, for ease, for numbness. In that vision, people were pacified not through violence, but through noise, constant, beautiful, numbing noise. A drug called Soma made sure no one ever felt the sharp edge of a thought. No restlessness, no discontent, no deep desire for meaning, just distraction. Sound familiar? Today we don't have Soma. We have TikTok, Reels, endlessly curated feeds, and they've done something that Huxley himself couldn't have imagined. They've made our own attention span disposable. What once lasted minutes now flickers for seconds, less than a minute. That's how long we can sit with a single idea before our minds reach for the next hit. But here's the part we overlook. This isn't happening to us. We are doing it. Every time we can't sit still in silence, every time we choose the feed instead of the page, every time we dodge discomfort with another scroll. It's a vote, a silent one. But it counts. It isn't just our habits that are changing. It's our very capacity to experience satisfaction. Neurological studies show that the digital rush mimics the same brain patterns as hard drugs, alcohol, meth, heroin. Not metaphorically, literally. Each swipe, a microdose of pleasure, and each pleasure just hollow enough to keep us coming back. But if you really want to test this, here's a question. When did you last finish something challenging without checking your phone midway? A book, a long conversation, a project? If you can't remember, you're not alone. Most people can't. The real concern isn't what we're doing, it's what we're no longer able to do. Deep thought, long focus, sitting with ideas that stretch us, feeling an emotion and letting it linger instead of numbing it away. We are starving the muscles that make us human. Social media isn't just shaping what we see, it's shaping how we think. Fast reactions are rewarded, slow thought is punished, outrage spreads, nuance sinks, and we get addicted not just to the content, but to the mindset it demands. Reactive, tribal, impatient, shallow. Ask yourself, how do you consume information now compared to 10 years ago? Do you reflect or do you react? Do you explore ideas that challenge you or chase confirmation of what you already think? These platforms aren't just feeding you, they're feeding on you. And in doing so, they're carving out a version of your mind that's easier to predict, easier to manipulate, easier to control. Now zoom out. This isn't just about your screen time. This is about the evolution of human attention. The very traits that built civilizations, focus, reflection, creative problem solving, are the very ones being thinned out, starved of use, because they don't maximize clicks, and so they wither. What do you do when discomfort rises in your chest? When a difficult truth creeps into your awareness? Most people reach for their phones, not to confront the thought, but to drown it. That's the mechanism. That's the trap. Not fear of pain, fear of feeling. In Huxley's world, Soma was the cure for every unpleasant emotion. In ours, it's endless distraction. We don't have to think about our loneliness. We can scroll it away. We don't have to face our doubt. There's a quote or a meme to replace it. But the price of that relief? It's our ability to grow. Studies show that repeated exposure to dopamine-driven platforms reshapes our brain's reward system. We are becoming wired not for joy, but for relief. And when discomfort is the enemy, anything that feels hard becomes intolerable. But difficulty is where evolution happens. Without challenge, we stagnate. When was the last time you let your mind wander? Not toward content, but toward curiosity. When did you sit with boredom long enough to discover something new within it? When did you feel something unfamiliar and stay with it instead of numbing it? Most can't remember. And that forgetfulness isn't random. It's programmed. The systems we engage with daily are engineered to create dependency, not just on the platforms, but on a state of emotional anesthesia. We are being taught to fear slowness, to avoid uncertainty, to escape complexity. And in doing so, we're losing what once made us adaptable, our ability to dwell with the unknown. Here's a darker twist. The more we feed this cycle, the less capable we become of breaking it. Because the part of our brain responsible for control, focus, reflection, long-term planning is being eroded. You can't fight back with a sword that's been dulled. That's what makes this so sinister. The tools that might help us resist are the very ones being weakened. And yet it feels like freedom. That's the brilliance of it. We choose the scroll. We pick the feed. We like the dopamine hit. And so we tell ourselves it's just entertainment, just habit. But when your every impulse is nudged by algorithms that know your mind better than you do, who's really choosing? Think carefully. If you were to describe your beliefs, your preferences, your values, how many of them would sound exactly like those of others in your age group, your culture, your online tribe? We like to think we're individuals, but in reality we're being shaped by invisible consensus, patterns curated by code. That's how conformity grows, not through force, through exposure, through repetition, through social proof dressed up as discovery. Your feed may look different than someone else's, but the architecture is the same. The rhythm, the reward loop, the nudges. They don't need to control what you think. They only need to guide how you think. Fast, shallow, emotional, predictable. That's why real thought feels harder now. Because it is. The neural circuits that support deep concentration and reflective processing are literally being underused. And just like muscles, they weaken. Now picture this, millions of people scrolling through identical loops, not because they're being forced, but because they crave it. The sameness doesn't feel like control. It feels like belonging. But sameness isn't identity, it's sedation. We are mistaking exposure for wisdom and attention for understanding, but neither are substitutes for depth. We are mistaking echo chambers for connection, but a mirror can't teach you anything new. It only reflects what you already are. The cost of this digital mimicry is our authentic voice. When was the last time you thought something original? Felt something without sharing it? Formed a belief not from a real, but from wrestling with reality? Those are uncomfortable questions, and our instinct, once again, is to escape them. But that instinct is the very symptom this video is about. This isn't the extinction of our bodies. This is the soft erasure of our minds, of our capacity for presence, for self-examination, for stillness. And it's not just personal, it's collective. We are facing a pressure unlike anything evolution prepared us for. Systems that reward our worst impulses and punish our higher ones. Systems that dress addiction as empowerment. But here's the part that matters most. That pressure, it isn't fate. And that instinct to escape, it's not who we are. It's who we're becoming, unless we choose something else. The escape feels good. That much is true. But it's never been about the comfort. It's about what we're avoiding. We've trained ourselves to recoil from silence as if it's dangerous, not because silence itself harms us, but because in that stillness we come face to face with thoughts we've buried, truths we've sidestepped, parts of ourselves we don't want to meet. And the phone, it offers the perfect decoy. A moving image, a sound, a spark, just enough to pull us away from confronting anything real. The irony of all this is sharp. We call it connectivity, yet we've never been more fragmented. We label ourselves empowered, yet most of our choices are filtered through unseen systems, nudging us towards easy comfort instead of hard truth. This isn't a glitch in the system, it's the system working exactly as it was built, and we're feeding it. Every skipped conversation, every ignored feeling, every click that replaces contemplation. But the cost of that comfort is becoming impossible to ignore. We're not only losing depth, we're losing self-ownership, because a person who can't sit with their thoughts is easily redirected, easily influenced, easily controlled. The world no longer needs to impose authority when people willingly flee the discomfort of thinking for themselves. Imagine a generation that can't finish a sentence in their own mind without checking a device, one that finds unease in eye contact and terror in long silences. That's not dystopia. That's dinner tables right now. That's bedrooms, classrooms, offices, everywhere. The enemy isn't an outside force. It's our inability to be with ourselves. But there's something even more disturbing. We're not only giving away our attention, we're giving up our capacity to reflect. Neuroscience is already showing how repeated dopamine-seeking behavior from smartphones leads to weakened decision-making, emotional instability, and reduced self-regulation. The brain isn't just distracted, it's learning to crave distraction. And if you can't tolerate discomfort, you can't grow, you can't evolve. All progress, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, comes from engaging what's hard, not escaping it. But that muscle is atrophying, slowly, quietly, smiling all the while. You've probably felt it. That ache to check your phone when nothing's happening. That twitch in your brain during a pause in conversation. That strange urgency to fill every gap with noise. That's not natural. That's training. Not by accident, but by design. And the longer it continues, the harder it becomes to know who you are without the device reflecting back what it thinks you want to see. This is no longer just a conversation about technology. It's about identity. An addiction to the device is just a surface layer. Underneath it is a deeper addiction to escape, to avoidance, to constant stimulation that saves us from dealing with the complex chaos of being alive. And here's the tragedy. We believe we're choosing all of it. But how free is a choice if it's engineered? If it's crafted to be irresistible? If it plays on the exact chemicals that make decisions possible in the first place? Ask yourself this: when was the last time you sat with grief without numbing it? Or stared into your own confusion without trying to solve it with content? When did you last ask yourself who you've become, without defaulting to distraction? That's the heartbreak. We're not just addicted to scrolling. We're becoming allergic to stillness, to solitude, to the raw, unedited experience of life without a filter, without commentary, without curated perfection. And without that, something ancient begins to fade, the part of us that listens inward, that dreams without direction, that stares out the window not to avoid the world, but to rediscover it. Yet despite how heavy this all sounds, there is a way back. The brain, after all, is not made of stone. It's living, shifting, and astonishingly adaptable. The same mechanisms that led us here can also be used to return. Neuroplasticity isn't just a scientific term, it's hope in action. Researchers have found that stepping away from digital feedback loops for even short stretches, 2 weeks, 10 days, sometimes even less, can reawaken focus, sharpen memory, lift mood, and rekindle creativity. Not because the damage is undone instantly, but because the mind finally gets a break from the pressure to escape. When that pressure lifts, something remarkable happens. We start noticing again. The air, the texture of thought, the feeling of ideas that aren't dressed up as trends. And maybe, most importantly, we begin to rebuild the strength to stay, to sit with an idea long enough that it reveals more than its headline, to sit with a feeling long enough that it teaches us something. That's not regression. That's healing. It won't happen by accident. You have to choose it. You have to want your attention back, more than you want to be comfortable. And that's hard, because comfort is easy to sell. Freedom isn't. Discipline never is. But it's the only path to becoming something more than a reaction machine. It's the only way to reclaim your mind. And there are tools to help you, if you use them not to escape but to restore. Apps that limit impulse scrolling, devices that block distractions, routines that reintroduce boredom as a necessary nutrient for thought, even physical spaces, rooms without screens, mornings without notifications, nights spent in conversation rather than consumption. But none of that matters unless it's rooted in one thing: your willingness to meet yourself again, to hear your thoughts without running, to confront your boredom as an invitation rather than a burden, to notice the small, quiet corners of your experience that no algorithm will ever show you, because they don't make money, but they do make meaning. This isn't about demonizing tech, it's about defining the line. What serves us and what sedates us, what expands our mind and what cages it. And it's about the courage to admit how easily we blur that line when we're scared, tired, or emotionally vulnerable. Because ultimately, this is a spiritual war, not in the religious sense, but in the internal one. A battle for your depth, for your capacity to feel, to focus, to think beyond the surface. Every time you choose silence over scrolling, a tiny rebellion takes place. Every book you finish without interruption, every thought you carry past the impulse to check, every emotion you feel all the way through, it all adds up. Those aren't just moments of personal victory. They're acts of cultural resistance, because every distraction you resist is one less notch in the machine's grip. Every moment of presence is a reminder to the world that human consciousness isn't for sale. The future won't be decided by policy alone. It will be shaped by the daily patterns of millions, the rituals of attention, the private choices made in public silence, the brave decision to be bored, to be alone, to think. This may sound small, but it's not. Because we got here through small choices stacked day after day, and we'll climb out the same way. One pause, one breath, one decision not to escape, but to feel, to face, to reflect. Huxley's warning, dressed in fiction, is no longer fiction. It's documentary. And while he may not have foreseen touchscreens or dopamine receptors, he understood something deeper, that when a society trades meaning for comfort, it loses not just its values, it loses its soul. But he also left us with a clue. That awareness is power, and in today's world, awareness is rebellion. It means you're no longer sleepwalking, you're watching, listening, choosing. That alone is everything. Because you can't scroll your way to purpose. You have to build it. You can't react your way into wisdom. You have to sit with complexity, break it open, and hold it. That kind of mind doesn't form on accident. It forms through challenge, through refusal, through the decision to stay awake. The extinction we're facing isn't of our species, it's of our depth. Our ability to live a life that's not just stimulated, but meaningful, not just connected, but authentic, not just loud, but true. And that evolution, it begins with one thing, choosing not to run, not from the world, but from yourself. Because when you stop escaping, you begin to remember what you care about, what you believe in, who you are. And in that remembering, you become something no algorithm can predict. You become fully, uncomfortably, unavoidably alive. That is the true revolution, not against technology, but against the slow erasure of your own presence. You're not addicted to your phone. You're addicted to escaping yourself, and now, you know.